Okay, Virgin Queen here. Before we step into the diplomacy segment proper, just want to look a little bit at the mechanics or the mechanical aspect of the card draw phase, not the mechanical aspect itself, but some of the effects. One of the things we see is everybody's kind of grown in their cards. By the way, Spanish got a new home card this turn, the Armada, which gives them some help if they want to use it to build the Armada up more cheaply. They haven't been doing that. Got no real concern with England right now. Anyway, everyone's up to about 5 cards, with a few notable exceptions. England's at 4, no biggie. They got an extra treasure from overseas, which makes that up for that. But poor Holy Roman Empire at 3 cards. Now they're on the ropes already because of the trouble they're having, you know, in terms of their territory being conquered, their capital being taken. But they're obviously not going to be sufficient to stop the Turks. It was possible for Turkey to step in and stop them, but they just do not have the manpower and force. Got some new people in the marriage pool. Some new leaders. Good old Santa Cruz, though we have Don Juan still, so. And the Duke of Parma, which gives us a good military leader. This is beginning to speak poorly in terms of France's ability to survive. The problem here is I'm a lot less worried about France, and France and Spain may be able to come to some sort of deal so that the Spanish can turn against the Protestants and or the Turks. I wouldn't be too surprised if an agreement could be come to there. I'm not sure though, because Spain doesn't want to give up what it gained from the war. And in this game, unlike in the other one, there's no mechanism for surrender, so trying to knock someone out of the war and force them into a position where they have to give up doesn't really work. In which case, well, you've got to give France something for leaving the war. They may be feeling, I don't have much of a chance anyway at this point. It's hard to tell though. I think as long as the balance of power is in place, France is collecting good victory points. They just have to accept perhaps that Marseille is no longer theirs. Anyway, another thing I wanted to mention had to do with the treasures. I look at Spain's tremendous advantage in all these treasures, and you start to think, you know, all those treasures mean that Spain can play even cheap events and stuff for the event, instead of just trying to scrape every point together so they can keep a military operation going. It definitely gives you a lot more flexibility. It means you can either play events or you can explore some of these other things, patronage, stuff like that, that maybe you wouldn't have the points for otherwise. So I think they're very, very valuable. Always, you know, you get to pair a good event or a good expensive card with maybe a low treasure if you're playing the card for CPs, or a cheap, you know, a light valued event or something, or any event, and a high value treasure, whatever. So, you know, you can kind of maximize your actual point expenditure each turn, even though you're getting events or whatever, or doing some little, you know, off to the side type stuff. Alright, on to the diplomacy. There's definitely looks like, though, that there's a feeling that both the Protestants and the Turks have to be dealt with. There has to be some kind of agreement on how to handle that. Okay, quick shakeout from the diplomacy phase, and yes, we're moving quicker now. I'm not going into all the details. France and Spain came to an agreement. Not only are they at peace, but they've got an alliance. The cost for that, however, was 1 random treasure draw and 1 random card draw, which is pretty good. Part of that is because there was no marriage alliance available. There were no Spanish leaders that could be put up for marriage. As to the leaders that went up for marriage, the French have decided to marry the Duke of Alençon to marry Queen of Scots. That's unlikely to succeed, but they didn't really want to give an advantage to William of Orange. And in fact, William didn't want Mary, Queen of Scots because of one of the other effects. There's a declaration of war, and this is a big, expensive one. Cost 4-point treasure counter. England declared war on the Protestants, primarily so that they can invade Scotland, which is currently a Protestant controlled territory. Now, so William set himself up with Louise de Coligny, which gives an extra card next turn if that works out okay. I screwed up last time though. Any marriage with Mary, Queen of Scots is immediately resolved. So, the French have, and the numbers on there don't really matter, Alençon Mary is +2, so we handle that right away. And they got a 9 on the marriage table, 7 on the die roll, which is last minute cancellation. Essentially, there is no marriage, so none of the effects take place. Now that means Mary is going to kind of disappear as a marriageable element. This other one is also, actually it was only +1 on the table. Hold on, that's an 8. I forgot they don't add always feuding. No, they do get married. Note for the scandalous behavior, they're married, but the husband and wife will continue to take multiple. So each gets a -1 card marker. Now, here's the problem. They're both French. Does that mean 2 -1 card markers or just 1? I'm going to say just 1 unless it's clear. Each power, because there's only 1 power. I think that's actually fairly clear. There would have to be some kind of statement otherwise. So the French took a bit of a disadvantage for that. However, we get the Valois point for Alençon. Mary will be removed. French get another victory point, and they're doing quite well actually as well in victory points. It's just they were doing so well before. And the Mary, Queen of Scots one gives 2 influences to Scotland, resolve the wedding immediately in the diplomacy phase. Well, that doesn't cause resolving Scotland, however. And their cards go away, they're done. Because, and that's kind of a pain. The French would have loved to have Scotland resolved and turned away. Oh, you can't marry Mary. She's in jail. Isn't she? She's been captured. Forget that. Mary probably can't come back in the game. But let's take that card off. Let's take those influence off. And the Valois advantage is not going to happen. The only female otherwise available was Elizabeth. She's not going to be involved in this. So that Valois victory point for Alençon does not happen. And he's going to die unmarried, it appears. Or unimportant in terms of his marriage. Okay. Easy to make mistakes, especially for me. Alright, so we're going to go on to the spring deployment and then try to kick things off. So I haven't played the Dutch yet on this first round around, but I wanted to kind of give the flow of the campaign. Spaniards moved into Zingetva, I don't know, and ended up taking the Empire was shit. Here it happens again. The Empire was unable. Yeah, I know. Was unable to escape with their leader, so they took it as a siege. Now, on their turn, and this is why I actually did it, they played an army mutiny card, which would have discarded all the regulars from that army, thereby failing the siege completely, except the Turks were able to discard their Grand Vizier card. That's a lot of points, though, to throw away at this point. And it definitely seemed like a good payoff for a time when the Empire can't really do anything militarily here. Let's look at what some of the powers in between did, though. The Spaniards started building the Armada. They played their Armada card, home power card, and they're getting that up basically so that they can conduct a siege of Naples. They're quite aware that they're not going to be able to take it without the naval support to handle Dragut here. And they probably won't be able to take it anyhow. Now, let's see, who else do we have? We have the English opened up their siege of Edinburgh. The French sent Leclerc out using these Genoese bankers. That's a card that allows you to outfit an expedition, and they were able to drop a colony for free and do some piracy here. They grabbed another treasure from the Spanish and kind of pissed them off. But the French are kind of at peace right now with everyone, but they're expecting the Protestants to start a revolt at some point. Protestants have a lot on their plate right now, though, so we're not sure quite where that's going to end up going. And then that's about it. I haven't gotten to the Protestants yet. Alright, onward. Okay, and the Turks had a bad shot here with their siege. They lost a couple of units. There's a lot of Germans in there. There's actually 4 units in there, the maximum you can hold in a siege, I think. And, well, that's enough to make things painful, to put it that way. And they took the loss there. For the Spaniards, they began their march down. They paid points for something else as well. I don't remember what. The English continued their siege. It was okay. French are engaged in some weird naval stuff still. They dropped another leader here, another one of these explorer types. But they also converted Paris and some other territories back, causing some victory point changes where the Dutch and English fell back. Now you'll see the Dutch are high. That's because on their turn, they ended up capturing Brussels, and also, I don't remember what else. Oh, they played the Spanish Fury card, and that means they got a draw from the Spanish deck, a draw from the deck, and the Spanish get a draw from the Spanish hand, and the Spanish get a +1 card for next turn. Basically, the excesses of some of the siege results. I don't know if they should be limited or not. You know, in the game, anyone can play that essentially. Certainly, the Dutch revolt was nasty enough where there were these really excess pillaging type events. Would everything have been? So, for example, if the English took Edinburgh, would that make sense? I don't know. Probably in most conditions, no. But, who knows? And it's easier to just make it a card, I guess. Anyway, that's just kind of the nature of the game. You don't want to make it only for one player or only for one theater or something, probably. I don't know. Anyway, on to the Ottomans. I'm going to pack this one up, and it looks like it's time for me to be at work.